Cognitive perspective. Gestalt psychology. Gestalt psychology was at the forefront of the cognitive psychology. It served as a foundation of the cognitive perspective to learning. It opposed the external and mechanistic focus of behaviorism. It considered the mental processes and products of perception. This is the advanced organizer of the Gestalt psychology. Gestalt principles, insight learning, and life space of Lewin. Law in Gestalt principles, there is law of proximity, law of closure, law of good continuation, law of good pregnance, and the law of figure or ground. While the life space, there is inner forces and outer forces. Gestalt psychology. It was the initial cognitive response to behaviorism. It emphasized the importance of sensory rules and the dynamic nature of visual perception. The term gestalt means form or configuration. Psychologist Max Wertheimer, I can see it, and Kurt, I can see the name. Okay, second. And Kurt Kafka studied perception and concluded that perceivers or learners are not passive but rather than active. This is Marx Wertheimer and Wolfgang Kohler, and this is Kurt Kafka. They suggested that learners do not just collect information as is, but they actively process and restructure data in order to understand it. This is the perceptual process. Certain factors impact on this perceptual process. Factors like past experiences, needs, attitudes, and one's present situation can affect their perception. Gestalt principles. As you can see, there are pictures here, and you may know later on what are these pictures all about. So, this is the law of proximity. Law of proximity. These are the elements that are closer together will be perceived as coherent objective. On the left, there appears to be 4 columns, while on the right, there appears to be 4 horizontal rows. When objects we are perceiving are near each other, we perceive them as belonging together. Okay, so this is the law of similarity. Elements that look similar will be perceived as part of the same form. There seems to be a triangle and a square. We link similar elements together. This is the law of closure. We tend to fill the gaps or close the figures we perceive. We close a space by completing a contour and ignoring gaps in the figure. Law of good continuation. Individuals have tendency to continue contours whenever the elements of the pattern establish an implied direction. People tend to draw a good continuous line. Law of good pregnance. The stimulus will be organized into as good a figure as possible. In this example, good refers to symmetry, simplicity, and regularity. Based on our experiences with perception, we expect certain patterns and therefore perceive that expected pattern. And lastly, the law of figure or ground. We tend to pay attention and perceive things in the foreground first. The stimulus will be perceived as separate from its ground. Insight learning. Gestalt psychology adheres to the idea of learning taking place by discovery or insight. The idea of insight learning was first developed by Wolfgang Kohler, in which he described experiments with apes where the apes could use boxes and sticks as tools to solve problems. The important aspect of learning was not reinforcement, but the coordination of thinking to create new organizations of materials. Kohler referred to this behavior as insight or discovery learning. Gestalt principles and the teaching learning process. The 6 Gestalt principles not only influence perception, but they also impact on learning. Other psychologists like Kurt Lewin expounded on Gestalt psychology. His theory, focusing on life space, adhered to Gestalt psychology. He said that an individual has inner and outer forces that affect his perceptions and also his learning. So this is the inner forces. Inner forces include his own motivation, attitudes, and feelings, while the outer forces may include the attitude and behavior of the teacher and classmates.